All right, so we're continuing our fairly familiar figures in Tanakh. Doeg HaEdomi, up to Daled. Doeg HaEdomi tells us in Sefer Shmuel was the chief of all the herdsmen of Shaul HaMelech. And we see him, he's present when Achimelech, who's a high priest in the city of Nov, gives David food and the sword of Goliath. When, unbeknownst to Achimelech, David was on the run from Shaul, and when Doeg sees this, Doeg rushes back to Shaul's court, and he informs him of this. Achimelech and all the Kohanim of Nov are ordered to show up before Shaul. He accuses them of supporting David in a rebellion against him. Achimelech defends himself. He says, first of all, I know he's the son-in-law. He's your son-in-law, and he's this holy man, and he didn't tell me that there was any fight between you. How was I supposed to know? But Shaul doesn't want to hear any of that, and Shaul orders Achimelech and all the priests of Nov put to death. This is the guards who are there refuse. They're not so comfortable putting all the Kohanim to death. So he orders, instead he orders Doeg, and Doeg does it. Doeg kills the 85 Kohanim, 85 priests, and then Doeg goes and wipes out the whole city of Nov. And it says men, women, children, and even animals. That's what we have from Tanakh about Doeg. But we also have much in Chazal, in rabbinic tradition about Doeg. According to Chazal, Doeg dies at a very young age, only 34. But he was seen by the other leaders of his time as the greatest scholar of his time. And, the whole name, Doeg HaEdomi, right? What does that mean? It means he's Doeg the Edomite? So it's a very strange thing. What does it mean he's an Edomite? That he's an Edomite. Edomites are the enemies of the Jewish people. So he's in Shaul's court. How do you understand that? Chazal have, so Edom, of course, means red. And Chazal have a whole host of answers as to why it might be that Shaul is called red. One is that he was so smart that he made every one of the other rabbis blush because he was so exceptionally smart. And the idea that he's the herdsman, the head, he's the head chief shepherd for Shaul. I always understand to me like shepherd of the Jewish people type of thing. And in fact, according to Chazal, Doeg HaEdomi, he's no Edomite, he's a Jew, and he's also not, he's the head of the Sanhedrin. Okay, so you're talking about this great Talmid Chacham and head of the Sanhedrin. According to Chazal, he could bring 300 different questions to one, each ritual case. He could bring 300 different questions he could pose. And many reasons it calls him Edomi, red. It could be because the killing of the Kohanim at Nov, and he's called Edomi, like red, like blood red for the murder. Also, he could be because he's jealous of David HaMelech. David is called Admoni, right, ruddy, which is why we have the tradition that David HaMelech had red hair, if that's what it means. But so he was sort of jealous. He was a competitor with David. In fact, according to Chazal, he was jealous of David. He had a grudge against David. David had a different opinion about where the site of the Beis HaMikdash was, according to the Gemara, and they argued. And basically, Shmuel sided with David HaMelech. So he sort of had this grudge against David from the beginning. He also basically made an argument that David, as a descendant of Rus, who was from Moavi, could not belong to the Jewish people. Shmuel again interceded and ruled with David. So he really sort of had it in for him. Was jealous and angry. Even the name Doeg, forget Edomi and all the different reds and bloods. There's a lot more that I left out, but Doeg means like worried. So like Chazal, that God was like worried about him, meaning he was this great leader of the Sanhedrin, this great Talmid Chacham, but God was worried and concerned that he was going to mess up, in which he did. A lot of other things about Doeg in terms of, he led Shaul astray in regards to Amalek, and he had opinion that they could leave them alive. It's interesting. He said they could leave alive. He said you can't shecht. It's osoves beno. It says in the Torah you can't shecht like an animal and its mother in the same day. So he said, well, you can't kill a Gog and all of his people on the same day. You should keep them on a separate day. That was like his argument. And so the irony is they kept alive, Doeg and the animals. And when he went to the city of Nov, Doeg wipes out the men, women, children, and the animals. He didn't even leave them alive, in the city of Nov. One final midrash that we'll just mention is that Doeg, according to some, was the one who actually killed Shaul. There's a whole story where David HaMelech is an Amaleki, comes to him, this young man comes to him and says, Shaul was lying on his spear, and I finished him off. He asked me to, and I finished him off. And David says, what? Who are you to do such a thing? And David has him killed. You're not allowed to do such a thing to the anointed of God. And that was sort of retribution for, the things that Doeg had done. It sort of came back to him in his own time. And one famous statement that Chazal say about Doeg is that he is the prime example of the danger that Lashon Hara can cause, because it causes damage to the one who says it, the one who it's said about, and the one who listens to it. In this case, it caused, damage because he was saying Lashon Hara, he said Lashon Hara, Doeg ended up, ultimately getting punished for it. Shaul listened to it and brought about the deaths of the Kohanim and the ones themselves about Achimelech himself, that the Lashon Hara was said about him, and that caused his death. So all these deaths were caused by the Lashon Hara that Doeg set out to say.